Fire the recruiting cannons. Another one is headed to Madison on Wisconsin.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. Thank you for making this one of your first listens every single day. Really do appreciate everybody tuning in. A lot to talk about today. So I've been out of pocket the last couple of days. I've been away from the computer, so I didn't get a chance to talk about the practice where CJ Williams went nuclear. Definitely got to talk about that. Got to talk about Braden Locke. But we got to start. I mentioned it. I did it at the beginning. Fire the recruiting cannons. Another one's coming to Madison. Derek Jensen has committed to the Badgers, bringing our 2024 class up to 4 commits. This is a big one. This is a really good one to get started. Really solid player. We've talked about Derek Jensen on the show. Kyle Maitre, what's going on, my friend? Says, let's go. Indeed, let's go. He's got the Brewers logo up there. Baseball's obviously going on. Jensen is 6'6", 280-pound offensive tackle out of Heartland. Really solid player. We've talked about him before. Like the size, like the strength. You know, he's a guy who finishes his blocks. Definitely somebody who displays that requisite nastiness on film that you want from an offensive line recruit. So that's a big get. Obviously, the in-state component is always nice. You don't want to take kids just because they're from in-state, but when they are, it seems to work out a little better, especially with offensive linemen. Good size, good reach, does a really good job on film, something I talked about. He's able to kind of get to that second level, right? He'll wall somebody off with a nice angle, and then he'll continue moving on and get a linebacker, get downfield. You know, he's a really good prospect. Now, I do think he maybe is more of a right tackle. I don't know. I want to watch more of the film. I don't know if he has the great athleticism that maybe a left tackle has, but this is a really good get. High 3-star player. I think he's an 87 on the 247 composite. So he's right kind of below that 4-star threshold. I think the film backs that up. A really solid offer list. Iowa was after him. Obviously, Iowa evaluates the offensive line really well typically. Nebraska, Michigan State, Illinois, you know, a lot of really good prospects after him. And somebody who I feel like is a pretty high floor as well. Like, you don't have to project. A lot of offensive linemen in high school, Justin and I talk about this a lot. A lot of offensive linemen in high school, you have to try to figure out how they're going to carry 30, 40, 50 more pounds, right? You're watching him as a 6'5", 260-pound player. Jensen's already 280, 285, and he moves well for that size. They're going to put 10, 15, 20 pounds on him pretty easily. I think he projects really well. I think it's a pretty safe projection. There's a reason why the staff is after him. They're after him quickly. I think he's probably a right tackle-ish. There's a really good start to this class. Now you have 4 players in the class, all offensive players, by the way. Phil Longo's got to love that. All offensive players, all either 4-star or really high 3-star, you know, in Jensen and Booker's case. So this class is shaping up really well. There's another one out there. Longo had a tweet. So we're waiting on one more. We'll probably talk about that one tomorrow when it pops, if it pops. So Jensen, really good commit. Part of a really good in-state offensive line class that I want to talk about here in a second. I'm really intrigued by. Let's just get into that right now, actually. So we're going to do probably a whole show on Jensen, break down the film. We'll get John Garcia Jr. on. We'll definitely reach out to him, see if we can get him on the show, talk to his coach. But let's talk about that in-state offensive line class right now. And let's talk about how many the Badgers are taking this year, right? Because last year, it was just Durand. It wasn't a big offensive line class. Luke Fickell talked about it. That's not the numbers we're after. Now, obviously, they added Huber and Renfro in the portal, but they want more from that in a high school class. How many bodies are they taking this year at that spot? 3, 4? Because you have 4 in-state, right? And it starts with Donovan Harbor, the big-time in-state interior offensive lineman, teammates with Corey Smith, the blue-chip running back. He's a high 4-star kid. That's going to be a major battle. Ohio State's in there. Notre Dame's in there. Other schools are in there. SEC schools are in there. Harbor's going to be a big-time battle that I don't know if the Badgers are going to win. Then you have Nathan Roy. We've talked about him with John Garcia Jr. He is an elite outside athlete, about 265 pounds. Really good player on the edge. He's got a big-time offer list. He's blown up. He didn't grow up in state. That's going to be a battle, right? And then you just locked in Derek Jensen, who to me feels like one of the higher floor players out of this group. I don't think there's a ton of projection there. I think he shows really well at 285 pounds already. He moves well. He's nasty. I think he's a really good get, really solid get, high floor player with a pretty good ceiling. And then you have Garrett Sexton, who I've talked about. Wisconsin has not offered Sexton. I'm just going to go out and say it. Like, I hope they don't let him leave the state. Now he's the one you have to project, though, right? And we talked about difficulties with offensive line projection. He's the lightest of these guys. He's about 250, 255 pounds, but an 80-something inch wingspan for the in-state offensive tackle out of I believe he's out of Arrowhead as well. He is out of Arrowhead, right? Yeah, he's out of Arrowhead. That's almost an elite NFL wingspan, right? He has a huge frame in terms of wingspan, size. He just needs to add weight. He moves really, really well, finishes blocks. I hope they get Sexton. I hope because here's the thing. If you can put, and you don't know, I don't know, right? If you can put 50, 60 pounds on Sexton and he maintains most athleticism with that wingspan and that tenacity, the way he blocks on film, he's a first-round tackle type. Like, his upside is through the roof. If you can put, hold on one second. I see comments coming in. We're going to get comments in a second. If you can put the weight on to Sexton, he is a legitimate home run, high upside player. So the in-state class this year at offensive line is loaded. And I don't know why my camera just on focus there. Hopefully that comes back in. So if you're watching on YouTube, I apologize for that. I'm all on focus. I'm out of focus. My wife always tells me that all the time anyway. But yeah, so it's a big time in-state class. I'm super stoked to get Jensen into it. I think he's a really, really good player, really high floor. Now you have to lock down the other guys because I think some of the other guys that may in-state have a higher ceiling. I think Nathan Roy and Sexton maybe have the highest ceilings in state, and Harbor is just an interior beast. Like, he is a rhinoceros in the middle, and you definitely want to get him locked in as well, especially with the way this offensive line depth chart looks. There's so many tackle bodies. You need a couple more thumpers in the middle, and Harbor can definitely be that. So I'm very, very interested in how this offensive line class breaks down. I think they take 4 this year, and there's 4 great ones in state, but they're on a couple out-of-state kids too. So I'm very interested to see how they break this down. They got the first one in the mix right now. Jensen's a really solid player. He might be a 4-star by the time it's all said and done. I think physically he looks and plays like a bit of a 4-star. So very curious to see where he ends up, but he's a high 3-star player, really good get. Let's get to some of these comments in here. Elkin says there's one more comment, I believe, being announced tomorrow since Phil Longo tweet, most likely KBJ. That's the receiver, the 5'10 receiver. Like his game a lot. I'll talk about him a little bit in a different show coming up. I like his game a lot. Makes a lot of contested catches, really good in space. They throw a lot of receiver screens to him, so that's a really good one. Zach Bart says Jensen looks to be a stud, dude. Yeah, I think physically he checks a lot of boxes. The only thing with Jensen that worries me a little bit is I don't think he quite has the elite athleticism as but I don't know. I have to watch more film. I don't want to say that. I want to watch more film of him. I think he's a really good get, a really good in-state player. I'm totally on board with it. I love the get. Shell says it's good to see the bat signal again. Agreed. It's been a minute. Let's keep going here. Logan Couch, quick. We need a Luke Fickell bat signal t-shirt. Let's do it. Let's absolutely do it. Shell says you can't teach size and athleticism, can always teach the fundamentals. I agree. So that's another thing I talked about with actually on the show I did about Derek Jensen is he blocks really high. Like, he allows people to get underneath him like a lot of high school linemen. He needs to hone in on those fundamentals. But you could say that about when you watch film of high school linemen and they're blocking, he's 6'5", 280, and he's blocking a 6'2", 240-pound defensive end. Like, it's hard to be fundamentally perfect when you're blocking guys much smaller than you, right? It's easier for them to get under your pads because they're tiny compared to you. So I think the fundamentals work themselves out. This is a really big get for Wisconsin. High 3-star player, in-state player, and the offensive line is a big need this class. So I'm excited about All right, coming up, we're going to talk CJ Williams, get more of your comments in. I'm really excited to chop up this receiver room a little bit more. One of the most exciting things about it is different names popping up every day. I want to talk about that and how Phil Longo might use all these guys. That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, today's show is brought to you by our friends over at Built Bar. I've talked about Built Bar a lot. Let me just get real. I am tipping the scales past 40, right? Like, getting a little older. I need to get a little healthier. Built Bar is my nutritional go-to for it. I keep it in my desk drawer. My kids sneak it because they think they taste like candy bars. It's kid-proof. They think it's healthy, but it's protein, not a lot of sugar. It's healthy macros. It's incredible flavors. I always go to churro. That's mine. It's 100% real chocolate. And the best thing is they figured out this formula to make healthy protein something that you want to eat and put in your mouth, and not the cardboard tasting things that usually are protein bars. We all know what we're talking about here. Plus, they've gone mainstream. Go to Walmart, go to Sam's Club, get your 4-bar box at Walmart or your variety box at Sam's Club. You're going to thank me later. Built Bar, the best protein bars on the planet. All right, let's keep going here. Let's talk CJ Williams. Really, really interested in this receiver. I'm fascinated by it. I don't think there's a position group that I've been this fascinated about in a hot minute, right? In several years, quite frankly. And CJ Williams dominated last practice, the USC transfer. And that's great to see. But honestly, the best part about this is it feels like we're getting different names all the time that are stepping up. And that just shows you the depth and the variety that's in that receiver room, right? CJ Williams dominated this last practice, had multiple deep passes. He brings a level of physicality to it. But, right, we've seen great reports on Chris Brooks Jr., also a big physical receiver. We've also seen great reports on Will Pauling, who, by the way, if you remember, I called that Pauling thing. I'm like, this dude's going to be really good for us. People are sleeping on him. That was one of my guys. And you're starting to see these different names pop up. And Bryson Green's not even in the mix yet. And we know what we have with Keontez Lewis, just a pure vertical threat. We know what we have with Chimere DK, like that possession guy. Skyler, that just jacked up. They call him Juice for a reason, right? And you're starting to see these different pieces flourish in this offense and just have different days where it's going to be a Pauling day, or it's going to be a CJ day, or it's going to be a Chris Brooks day. And when Bryson gets back, there's going to be a Bryson day, and there's going to be a day where Keontez hits 2 deep verticals and he takes the top off, right? And I started thinking about it. Longo really has these different classes of weapons now, right? You want possession receivers, physical possession receivers. You have a CJ Williams. You have a Marcus Allen. You have a DK who's kind of that possession receiver. You have a Chris Brooks Jr. who can be that physical possession receiver, that red zone threat. Then you want a slot guy, right? You're going to have a Pauling, and you're going to have Tretch coming on board, guys who can operate in space, who you can put, cornerbacks into a spin cycle. You give an option route to a guy like Will Pauling with his speed and explosiveness, and maybe he's isolated against the third quarterback all of a sudden because the number 1 guy is covering Bryson Green and the number 2 guy is covering Sky. Now that third guy is supposed to cover Will Pauling in the slot with a 2-way go route. Get out of here. Same with Tretch. Or you want that vertical deep threat, right? Now you're talking that Keontez Lewis and coming back to Skylar Bell. And that's the really exciting part with this. Phil Longo is really smart, right? He's a really intelligent offensive coach who has multitudes of chess pieces to move about the playing board right now. And that's what's so exciting about this. When you see CJ Williams stepping up and you see Pauling and Brooks, and we know what that trio from last year can do. And we're really high, by the way, on Tretch coming in. He's going to come in as a physically developed freshman from two prestigious high schools. Like, he's going to come in, and it wouldn't shock me if he pushes right away. Now, the only reason he's not going to is because of the depth chart the depth chart is deep. It's depthy, so that's the only reason he's not going to, but he's going to be there. Bryson Green's coming back, and you just start to see where all these pieces are going to fit together. And then you add in a Braylon Allen. Jack Pugh's had a good day. Clay Cundiff is still coming back. And then you have a distributor who has an NFL-type arm with Tanner Mordecai. And listen, I'm not the one that usually tries to pump the hype train anyway, because we're fans. Like I always say, be excited about it. Us being excited doesn't hurt anything, right? Except maybe our hearts if it doesn't go the right way. But I'm never that guy to like pause the hype train anyway. But I don't even see any reason why you would with this. We're early in spring. The games still need to happen. We've talked about it a billion times, but what we're hearing validates what we thought we might see. And that's an important part to kind of to realize here, right? To plot out. You don't need to overreact to things, but react to them, right? You don't have to wait months to start reacting. That's the key. There's a sweet spot in between overreacting and then not reacting at all. Let's live in that sweet spot. All right, let's get some more comments here. A bunch more I want to get to. Let's see. Zach Bart's going back to Jensen, said in a strength and conditioning program could be an absolute unit. Yeah, as an upperclassman. That's the other thing too, right? And Zach, thank you for bringing that up. We are now living in the BC era of Badger football, the Brady Collins era of strength and conditioning, and players are going to get bigger, faster, stronger under this strength and conditioning program. So I'm very excited about that. Shell says we got to take at least 3 offensive linemen. I think you take 4. And I think you take 4 because you were light last year And also just because sometimes you have to hit targets of opportunity, right? And I'm a big fan of don't turn down talent, right? If you have, I'm just picturing they're in on several out-of-state kids who are highly rated. There's 4 kids in state that I think are studs that you would take any year, right? So if you can get 4 of those top 6 targets you have, those are all blue chip, like plan A targets. You just take them. I think you just take them and let it figure it out, because players transfer now more than ever, right? Players are going to transfer if they don't see a path to playing time. That's not a detriment to the player. One of the things I think we need to see die a little bit is this idea that they're transferring because they don't like competition. No, they're transferring because they can just start at another place, right? Like, I also want the player who's a dog who loves competition, but it's also a business decision, right? If you can go somewhere else and start quicker, that doesn't necessarily mean they're afraid of competition, I guess is where I'm at. So to loop that back, I got off on a tangent, but to loop that back, I think you take 4 and players will transfer out if they don't find a path to playing time. That's just the era we live in. Don't turn down talent. Elkin said, I think the other commit is going to be Kyan Barry Johnson. I agree. I think it's probably KBJ as well. Talk about him a little bit already. We'll talk about him on a future show, but I would be on board for that commitment. 5'10", athletic receiver, catches in space. Really like him a lot. Let's keep going here. Let's see. Where's Bo Dragon? No to Wales says, where's Bo Dragon? Yeah, I don't know. I'm sure he'll pop up. Listen, if we know Bo will pop up at some point somewhere. Let's see. Parker Dutcher said Fick won't leave for at least 7 years. He'll be the next Alvarez. Yeah, there was an OSU, or I shouldn't say an OSU. There was a YouTube show that they went with a hot rumor of, Fickell will leave Wisconsin within a year or two, whatever it is. I don't know. It could be true. There's no rumor to that, by the way. Let me be very clear. They were just speculating that they that's what they could see happening. I've said this several times. It wouldn't shock me, right? If OSU at some point makes a decision to move away from Ryan Day, and in that same time period that OSU has to build up to that, Luke Fickell has been extremely successful at Wisconsin. We all know who Ohio State's main target would be. It would be Luke Fickell, right? Of course it would be. And let's just be honest. Like, we can be honest with ourselves. Wisconsin is not Ohio State in the hierarchy of college football, right? So I'm not inside Luke Fickell's head. I'm not going to try to be inside Luke Fickell's head. But Ohio State would come to him with a grandfather offer, potentially, that Wisconsin, we're not going to match it. You can't, because there's certain intrinsic things that Wisconsin can't match that Ohio State brings to the table, right? National recruiting profile, almost unlimited ability to go into any 5-star player's room and land that kid. That's just not going to be Wisconsin, as much as we all wanted to change. So that's also not to say I think he would leave. I don't know. I really don't. I hope not. I think Wisconsin has an elite coach in-house right now. So the longer he stays, the better. But Ohio State would be that one dangerous one. Let's keep going here. Zach Bart says Jensen is a 4-star in Rivals, high 3-star in 247. Feel like he'll be a 4-star when it's all said and done. Yeah, I could definitely see it. Like I said, his 247 ranking, I think, is 87, which is just literally on that cusp. He's on that little precipice of a tiny jump up, and he's a 4-star. And that's a sweet spot for Wisconsin. Those are really good players. An 87 who's a 4-star on another site. Again, has size, measurables, good film. He checks a ton of boxes. Yeah, and it wouldn't surprise me at all if he is a 4-star composite when it's all said and done. Let's keep going here. A bunch more comments. We're going to take a very quick break, then just get into a bunch of your comments. Let's talk about it. Let's chop it up. A bunch more of your comments coming up on Locked On Badgers. As always, really do appreciate everybody tuning in. Coming up, more comments, including a little more recruiting talk. All that and more on today's Locked On Badgers. All right, let's keep going here. Some more comments. Again, I really do appreciate everybody tuning in. P says this offense will be ridiculous. What does ridiculous mean? Let's talk about it. Is it 35 a game? Would this be one of the top 3 offenses in the Big Ten behind with Ohio State and Michigan? Obviously, Michigan bringing back McCarthy. Ohio State's always explosive. Would it be disappointing if Wisconsin's not at that level? Interested in your thoughts there. I think it's a top 3 offense in the Big Ten. I think it's right with that elite group, because I think Ohio State and Michigan are going to be elite offensively, and I think Wisconsin's going to be right in that mix. If they're not there, for me, yeah, it will be disappointing. I mean, I'll just say it. Like, I've talked about growing pains. I think it's very possible this unit has some of that. But at some point, if you just stack talent, you can just out-talent people, right? You can put receivers and cornerbacks on islands, and your talent's just going to win. And you have a borderline NFL quarterback now. Mordecai, there is a reason he came back to college, right? He was going to leave for the pros and decided to grad transfer to Wisconsin. It's because he's kind of a borderline NFL guy. But let's all be real. A borderline NFL guy is a very good college quarterback, right? And he has a ton of moxie. I think this guy's almost the limit for this offense, especially when you get Braylon Allen engaged. I think this offensive line could take another jump. I'm excited, man. Let's see. Zach Bart says CJ Williams looked like we all wanted him to look, making big plays, laying out for passes. He's really showing his 4 or 5-star talent. Also cannot overlook Chris Brooks making plays day in. And that's what I'm saying, Zach. That's what I'm saying. I agree. There's so much talent in this receiver room. But the really interesting thing to me, where it really stands out, is there's so much versatility in this receiver room, right? You don't have a bunch of guys who are similar, who are really talented, but they kind of do the same things. As I mentioned earlier, you have this group of bigger physical receivers who are going to they're going to give people hell in the red zone, right? Like even McIntosh is 6'5", but Brooks, Allen, Sky is physical. CJ Williams is physical, but you also have these fast, shifty receivers. You have deep threats. I think it's going to be so hard for defenses to figure out where they want to shift coverages, where they want to roll a safety, because you can't take away everything. If you want to take away some of the vertical elements of the Longo offense, playing maybe a 3-deep shell or something like that, keep it in front of you, you're going to have a lot of trouble with the Paulings and the Tretches underneath. You really are, right? If you want to be more physical, you're going to have trouble at the line of scrimmage with the CJ Williams and the Juice Bells and the Chris Brooks Jr. types. Like, those guys are going to shove off, physical coverage and get inside that. So I just think there's a ton of versatility here, which really has me excited. It's not a bunch of the same. And Longo is a guy who makes passing games go. And now you've given him a cupboard full of good groceries. I can't wait to see what he cooks. I really can't. Aaron Kennedy, let's go. Let's go, Aaron. Nice to see you on the show, my friend. CJ Abbott. Yes, sir. Let's go. Like to see you on the show again. Thank you for always jumping on the show, CJ. Let me know what you think a successful offense this year will be. I'm very excited for it. Kyle Maitre says, very interested to see how Chris Brooks factors into the depth chart come fall. That's the thing too. Like, Chris Brooks is building a lot of momentum that started last year, right? That wave started last year and it's carried over to this year. But where does he factor into the depth chart when Bryson Green gets back? Like, how many receivers are going to catch meaningful passes this year? Are we going 6 deep with receivers that'll catch 10 plus passes? I have a hard time seeing that, but that's what has to happen if Chris Brooks is going to be involved, right? Because that top 4 is going to be some combination probably of Chimere, Bryson Green, Will Pauling, and then maybe Juice, Skylar Bell. And then you still have CJ Williams. You have Keontae Lewis. That's 6 right there without even getting to Chris Brooks. Maybe Brooks is 7th on that depth chart. Maybe he jumps some dudes. I don't know. It's going to be an incredibly fierce competition, and I can't wait for it. P says, I want OSU. I don't know, man. I have OSU PTSD, y'all. If I'm just being real, I don't know if I ever won OSU, and I know that makes me a weak sauce fan. That team terrifies me, man. They've beaten us 10 straight times. Mehmet Paku says, I'm sorry if I pronounced your last name, my friend. Says the 24 class is looking good. Yeah, it's a really good start. Now, there are classes in the Big Ten that are a little ahead of Wisconsin, right? Not necessarily. Obviously, Michigan is recruiting ridiculous this year, and that shouldn't be our standard necessarily. They're number 1 in the Big Ten. Ohio State's done really well. Minnesota has 8 commits. Wisconsin's sitting at 4. Now, Minnesota also has no 4-star commits, so quality matters here as well. But Wisconsin, from a number standpoint, is actually trending a little bit behind. But I think you're going to get another one tomorrow, and it's so early that doesn't stress me too much. Aaron Kennedy, where's the defense at? That's a good question. Yeah, I agree. Let's keep going here. I don't know if you're talking, by the way, in practice or in recruiting, Aaron. Not really sure where you're at there with that comment. Either way, it's good to hear like some back and forth in practice, right? It's a bit of a departure from previous practice years where it was always the defense winning every practice. Now we're seeing this passing game give this defense some issues. I think that's a really good sign. And I've talked about that before. Gene Swan says, are they going to have enough defense this year? I don't know. I mean, that's the question, right? That's what we've talked about. In a weird twist of fate, defense may be the question mark that determines how far Wisconsin goes this year. And I don't know if the pass rush is going to be good enough. I'm still not sure. I think the run defense will be good enough. I think listen, the defensive line is stout. If nothing else, they're stout. There's a bunch of 280-pound upperclassmen. I'm not worried about that. But I don't know. I don't know if the pass rush is going to be there this year. That's a big question I have, and I still have it, and I don't think it's been solved. Let's keep going here. Logan Couch says we're going to win a national championship or 2 or 4 with Luke Fickell. Yes, I would be. Listen, that's sports nirvana. If Wisconsin gets a national title, I am going to put this on record, like record it in the annals of Locked On Badgers for as long as I am employed here. If Wisconsin wins a national title, I will have the biggest swag giveaway. I will be giving so many jerseys away, so many helmets away. It'll be like the Christmas spectacular we had times 10. So hold me to it. It's going to be epic if that ever happens. I will gladly do the biggest swag giveaway in the history of the Locked On Network. I probably shouldn't say that because I don't know what other people have done, but certainly in the history of Locked On Badgers, I'll tell you that. Patrick Flaherty says, I've been a Badger fan for many, many years. Class of 82. I check my feeds for Badger news multiple times a day. It's going to be a long wait till fall. Love this show. Patrick, thank you for always tuning in, my friend. Really do appreciate it. It is going to be a long wait. I certainly agree with that. Let's see. Slim Lewis psyched about this signing, 6'7", 330. He is not 6'7", 330 unless somebody else signed. Now, maybe 3 years down the road in the Brady Collins, the Brady Collins plan, he could be 6'7", 330. Let's keep going here. Man, a bunch of comments. I'm not going to get everybody in here. Oh, there's Bo Dragon. Fire Guard. There's the Bo Dragon we know and love. I love it. And Mehmet says, I got his last name correct. That's incredible. That makes me very happy. Logan Couch says, why would Miami re-offer Mabry? He is a Badger. He is ours. Stay away, Miami. So I did a whole segment on this. The Miami Hurricanes, for those that maybe missed that segment or didn't see this, the Miami Hurricanes re-offered Mabry Metoyer, our 24 quarterback. Two really quick things with that. Why would they re-offer him? It's because programs shotgun offer quarterbacks if they need one. Like they offered a couple other quarterbacks as well. So I won't read too much into that. And the other thing I would say is I talked about this, but my recap of what I said is this is why you stack the quarterback room, because you never know in recruiting. Listen, I don't think Miami is a threat to take Metoyer away from the Badgers, but maybe somebody else is, right? Nobody knows until people sign. That's how recruiting works. So that's why you stack the position. That's why you have an Evers and a Locke and a LaCrue, and they're not done. They're not done. Like if Metoyer went somewhere else, God forbid, I hope he doesn't. Now there's no smoke that he is, but if he did, they would land somebody else. And you just have to stack talent. And that way you insulate yourself against recruiting departures. So I think the staff has done an incredible job of stacking that quarterback room. I think Metoyer is coming here, by the way. Let me just say that. But if he weren't, that's why you have 2 4-star transfers from last year's cycle. So I'm very excited about that. Darren Wyman said competition is good. Agreed. Let's keep going here. Leroy James, the Badgers always play OSU well in Madison. It's been a very long time since the Buckeyes came to Madison. Somehow the last 2 regular season games were in Columbus. Yeah, we've had a stretch of either playing them in Columbus or Indianapolis. So I expect, here's what I'll say with the OSU game, and I'm going to finish up on this question. I would say I expect it to be close this year in Madison. I also expect Ohio State to win. But I think we are done. Here's where I think we're done with. I think we're done with I almost just dropped a bomb there that I can't drop on live air. I think we're done with the friggin' we don't look like we belong on the field with Ohio State, right? That Ohio State game this year was the most depressing game of the season for me. Yeah, more than the Illinois game for me, because it felt like we were light years from competitive with them, right? It felt like we did not belong on the field with them. It was embarrassing from the start. And those days, I think, are over. And Thankfully, I think those days are over. I think we're done looking like a reject JV team against Ohio State. I think we're going to compete. I think we're going to play. We're going to show up. We're going to be able to do some things that put them on their toes. But at the end of the day, Ohio State, they're still light years ahead of us from a roster standpoint, right? Give Fickell a couple years. It's year one for Fickell. Give Fickell, Brady Collins, Longo a couple years, and then I think we're going to be right there. But they're just so good. They're just so good. Patrick Flaherty says a big part of the quarterback play is above the shoulders. Braden Locke seems to be winning that battle with his knowledge of the offense. I love Locke. I love Braden Locke. I thought coming in, he would be the number 2 quarterback. That's something I've said on the show a couple times. I think he got overlooked. Like, people like the shiny thing. And this is no knock on Evers, who could still end up being the guy in the future and be incredible. But people are drawn to physical attributes. And to Patrick's point, they kind of forget about the cerebral aspect of playing a quarterback. I think Locke is a potential stud. There's a reason he was recruited to Mississippi State to play for the Pirate. He's a 4-star guy. He had an incredible high school career. And in any other year, in any other time, people would have been over the moon to land him. But he just got lost in the shadow a little bit of Mordecai and his 80 touchdowns the last 2 years, and Nick Evers, the physical Adonis quarterback. Locke got kind of lost in that shuffle. I think he's a legitimate guy, and I can't wait to see him play. Last comment here. Darren Wyman, I'm coming to the launch. Any updates on the Locked On event? So here's where I need to reach out to y'all. If I'm having a hard time finding a spot. So I have a couple emails out. We have a lot of things we want to do. We want to do a meet and greet. We want to give away some gear. We want to have potentially a couple players or recruits show. A lot of things, but I have some emails out to sports bars in Madison. If anybody knows anybody that knows anybody and wants to help out, that would be greatly appreciated. We're just looking for a spot right now. So with that, really do appreciate everybody tuning in. You guys are awesome. As always, we're building this community. I think we're doing it the right way. If you disagree with any of the takes, let me know. I've always tried to get people on here that disagree because I think we get smarter with disagreements. I think we do it respectfully on this show, though, which I really love, and I really appreciate everybody. So on Wisconsin, we're going to talk tomorrow, no doubt about it. We'll get Rajiv back on Tuesday, I'm sure. A potential really good guest coming up this week as well that you guys are going to want to stick around for. Appreciate everybody on Wisconsin, and let's talk tomorrow.